there's the dark sides of us that don't work, but they work perfectly for war.
You can love somebody and still beat them up.
You know, you're a 6-time world champion. You're a Hall of Famer in the UFC. For those youngsters that might be watching that don't know you, but that's also where this comes from, of not having a phone and not paying attention to a phone. It's a different era where, you know, I do too, but you better than me know a little longer of an era with no internet, no cell phone. What a weird time to think that there's limited amount of people left on this planet that know what it's like without technology.
I've ever had to use a payphone, for crying out loud.
Or a phone book. I could the white pages and the yellow pages and know the difference.
A Thomas guide.
A
to
beeper.
Find your way around. It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, never so connected as we are right now as humans. And at the same time, disconnected, because everybody's doing this instead of doing this.
This is the old social dilemma. They've made too many documentaries about it.
That Social Dilemma is a great documentary.
And it doesn't
almost makes you want to smash your phone by the end of watching that.
That's why hearing you, I completely agree. It's just so wild that at the same time, if you don't have your phone and you're not using your stuff, you're behind.
It's like a huge piece of business and life in general.
Keep up.
And obviously the upside is you get to keep track of people that you know you don't get to see anymore. Or rarely in the, you know, my college buddies, my high school buddies, my army buddies, you know, these are guys that live in different cities or different places around the world that I get to stay in contact with through digital platforms. And
also, because we're both, martial artists, I would say, how much do you think it's changing the game of martial arts speed-wise because of the access people have to watching, not just like, let's just say YouTube. I know you can't learn everything on YouTube, but also having the access to watch people on YouTube and then say, that's something I want to do. Like when I was watching you, I'm 12 years old. You had your debut in the UFC, 1997. And you can't watch it anywhere. You can't watch how you trained. The only thing you got is Olympic wrestling. And I watched you wrestling, and that's how I wrestled. So I wrestled since 7th grade. So you were like one of the guys that I'm watching you, I'm watching Daniel Cormier, I'm watching, just the best wrestlers on earth, wanting to be like you guys back then. Cause I'm just in junior high, trying to work my way, trying to be a state champion. But it's so crazy to think that I couldn't watch anything except sometimes you'd see the Ultimate Fighter, the occasional Ultimate Fighter. But I remember being in junior high thinking I was going to wrestle this kid who had a coach who was they called it no holds barred back then, right?
Yeah.
They had his NHB,
right. Yeah.
and you're the guy you're facing. His coach is a NHB, is a cage fighter, and I remember thinking in junior high, like, what is that even like? Because I was so nervous before a wrestling match already, right? And then somebody like told me about it, and they couldn't show me on the phone because it didn't exist. So it's like they just tell me about it, and now I'm making up all these stories, and there's no rules, and you kick each other in the nards. You poke each other in the eyes, you kick them in the head, and I was so terrified to face this guy. And it just, I don't know, I think about that still sometimes. Like, these kids can just watch world champion Randy Couture do it, be the first person to win all these titles in 2 weight classes, and say, oh, it's possible. And just anybody can watch it. Whereas I didn't really even know it existed.
Yeah.
When the first time I showed up to a wrestling room, they said, have you, I thought it was WWE wrestling. I don't know. It's wrestling.
Olympic,
I'm 11 years old.
Yeah.
So
that's what
every kid knows now, right?
As well.
Yeah. But you got so incredible so fast. What made you so good at wrestling and do so well? I mean, you're a 3-time All-American, 1-time runner-up at Oklahoma State, right?
2-time runner-up.
2-time runner-up. And then you're also Olympic caliber and alternate. And
I was
also
alternate on 4 Olympic teams, yeah. That was the one goal I didn't achieve. And in 92 and 96, I was the number 1 guy in my weight class. Everybody expected me to make those teams, especially that 96 team. And it didn't happen. But everything happens for a reason, right? I think if I'd made those teams and won my medal, I'd be a college coach somewhere now. I would have never forayed into MMA, and look what I would have missed out on. That's how I feel about it. So embrace those losses. Those are important. They changed the trajectory of my life, literally. Because if I hadn't lost those matches, if I'd been successful in those moments in wrestling, I probably would be a college coach somewhere now.
Yeah, I think about that all the time too. I might have been a high school coach because I didn't get the scholarship to college, and I didn't do super well on the ACTs. And so I didn't get my scholarship, and I didn't have a lot of money to pay for college. So that pushed me directly into fighting right out of high school. I'm 19 years old, and I'm watching The Ultimate Fighter at this time.
Yeah.
And you're just champion, and you're fighting for championships in the UFC at this time. And I'm seeing The Ultimate Fighter on their first season. I'm watching it like, wow, this is crazy. I wonder how this is going to go. By the time the second season came up, I started to realize this is actually, there's no way this is going to go away now that it's here already. It was like, it's too, I don't know, it pulls people in too much. I could see it. It's not going anywhere. So I was like, this actually could be a future possibly. And I remember being in college and trying to decide, like, I'm fighting on the weekends, but I'm still working 3 jobs and I'm still going to school. Do I quit going to school, quit working all these jobs, and then just go for it at 19? Or do I,
Which is scary.
extremely, or do I stay smart, stay in school, stay in my circuit in Tucson, Arizona at this time, and be smart, like get your degree, get your college degree. At this time, that's the smart thing to do. It really is. I'm watching you. I'm watching Chuck Liddell. I'm watching Tito Ortiz. I'm watching Trilogies. I'm watching Matt Hughes. I'm watching BJ Penn. I'm watching Sean Shirk. I'm wanting to fight Sean Shirk in my head at this time in high school, thinking there's no chance I can beat this guy.
The muscle shark.
Yeah, he's the man back then. These guys are all the man.
That's funny. Well, I had the same thing. I didn't get any love out of high school. I was a one-time state champ up in Seattle, in Linwood, Washington. And I got no love out of high school to go to college.
How did you afford it?
A family. I sold my car.
You sold your car to pay for your own school?
To go to school, yeah.
Awesome.
I walked on at Washington State for a semester and ended up having a baby on the way.
Oh my gosh!
So you're paying me like my dad. I'm going to be a part of this kid's life, and so we got married at 18, and Ryan was on his way.
So just to
I
be
joined
clear,
the service to support that family, and I thought wrestling was done for me. Well, I graduated in 81, joined the Army in 82, had a kid on the way, and my son was born in August, and I left for basic training in October. And I thought wrestling was done for me. Little did I know, peak of the Cold War, first duty station was Hanau, West Germany, 5 million soldiers stationed in Europe at that time, at the peak of the Cold War. And athletic programs were huge for morale, especially wrestling and boxing. So I ended up in Germany, back on a wrestling mat, wrestling for the Army. Eventually made the All-Army Wrestling team, which got me in the inter-service wrestling championship against the other services and qualified me for the Olympic trials.
Wow.
And I ended up being an alternate as a soldier in the 88 Olympic trials. So that was my first try at making the Olympic team.
Okay. So you didn't do super well in high school, and then the kid
I was a one-time
on the way.
state champ. So
Yeah, that's
by college
pretty
standards,
good.
I mean, that's not
perfect.
bad, but Washington's not one of the best wrestling states in the union. And, unlike California or New York or some of these other states where wrestling is a much bigger deal than it is in Washington State. Washington State was the only university that had a collegiate program. Central Washington and Washington State, Title IX had decimated wrestling in the state of Washington. University of Washington, all these programs used to exist. And then in the 80s, when Title IX was adopted, a bunch of wrestling programs on the way. And Washington State eventually dropped their program too, which allowed me my matriculation stopped when I joined the Army. So I still had 4 years eligibility. Now I've made the Olympic team as an alternate, as a soldier, and all these college coaches were like, where did this kid come from?
Where did you come from, honestly?
Linwood, Washington.
I know that, but I mean, like, you're wrestling, like, because it's not like you had a ton of experience going into the Army and wrestling.
I had heard what a great wrestler and tough guy my dad was growing up my whole life. So somewhere, I think in my young mind, I thought if I turned out for wrestling, maybe I'd get his attention. Maybe he'd come around. And he never did. He never saw me wrestle a single match in my entire career. But I found the place I flourished. I found my friends, the people that I had a lot in common with, were on that wrestling mat. And those coaches filled that void. Coach Casepier, Coach McAvoy, Coach Winter, Coach Say and Coach Burnett and Coach Smith. And those were important guys in my life up through my 20s and on. When I needed a kick in the butt, they were the ones that stepped up and did that. When I needed some encouragement, they did that too. I was raised in a single parent household. My mom raised 3 of us by herself with very little help. So wrestling kept me out of trouble. Wrestling, I fell in love with the sport almost immediately.
So everything you just said is identical pretty much, except my mom had just me and my brother instead of 3 of us. But same thing, dad wasn't around. Coaches were my role model. I just searched for that father figure.
Male, 2 younger sisters. Yeah. Oldest. Wow. That's interesting.
And
we could have used that as an excuse to make a lot of bad decisions and do a lot of bad things probably, but
definitely.
We were different.
Yeah.
We used it as fuel.
Well, with your dad, do you know, like for me, my dad, I was angry and that fueled me that he didn't want to be around and I wanted his attention, but it was more like I was in a place of wanting to save him than be angry at him because he was like on meth and I was,
oh wow.
I was like real pulled into getting him off the drug as being very young rather than wanting his attention. It was weird. It was
so
like,
there was an example of what you didn't want to be right
exactly.
there.
And that's what pulled me out of it. And is like, I saw everything he was, and I don't, even when he died and stuff, I didn't hate him. I got to a point where I could finally, see things a little bit different as I got older, obviously. But growing up and using it for fighting and wrestling, it actually worked out really well. I hate to say it, but having that bitterness and that anger and that fire really did, but really helped. But it's interesting to me listening to you tell that story because wrestling saved a lot of us that were in that boat. I feel like a lot of men in that boat, and now women too. Women is growing faster than ever.
Sport in the U.S. right now is women's wrestling,
and I absolutely love
all 3 divisions, collegiate championships now, and I think it's important we as men in both fighting and wrestling embrace our women's sports because that takes that Title IX pressure off of us.
Facts. I agree. I think it's genius that it's wrestling too, women in wrestling. Like Audrey Jimenez is a female that just won a state championship as a female in the boys and is in the boys division and then went on and she's gone to, the Olympic stuff too. But she's just an example of the level of wrestling that women are getting to this day and age too. I'd never see it coming.
Yeah,
how
Trish
good they've
Saunders,
gotten.
Shannon Williams. Those are 2 girls that wrestled for Sunkiss Kids when there was no women's wrestling anywhere.
Right.
They had to wrestle with the men.
Yes.
And then Sunkiss was one of the first clubs to start a women's team. Trisha and Shannon were the first women's medalists when it became a medal sport in the World Championships and then the Olympics on down the line. So at a ground level, I was literally exposed to the women's sport and embraced it right away. I saw the wisdom in yes, this needs to grow. This is going to be good for us.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys took the other tack. Oh, what are they doing? It's like, it's our sport. They can't do this. And
definitely not.
I think that was the wrong approach for sure.
I agree. Definitely need everybody involved in the sport. And the fact that it's growing again, it's 2 things I want to say. One, the internet, I believe is, again, go back to that, is why it's kind of fueled. I think women are more interested in it too, because so many people can watch. It's not just 2 guys in a singlet. It's like, it's fun to watch.
Yeah. And now, look what RAF is doing. I think RAF is doing a great job. Finally, somebody's doing professional wrestling in some sort, and it's taking off. It's getting traction, which is exciting. And I love what they're doing there. And the women's sport, I wonder how much women's MMA coming online and seeing a lot of success with Gina Carano, Ronda Rousey on down the line, Miesha Tate, so many females competing that have that wrestling and grappling background that inspired a lot of girls to go out for the wrestling team and use that as their foundation for MMA as well.
You're a commentator, so you know all this stuff. Obviously, you commentate too, so you know like the backstories of the sport. You were the beginning of it, and it's like how much did all the internet and stuff? It's like, how is the fighting fueling wrestling now? Because I do believe it built wrestling up to a higher level as fighting, because it made people want to, oh, wow, actually, you got to learn how to wrestle to fight.
Yeah. I think for a lot of years, wrestling was the redheaded stepchild in scholastic sports. We spit in cups and we cut weight and we do all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, who the hell are these guys? And I think, all this, the sport of no holds barred or MMA has elevated wrestling to a martial arts status that it didn't enjoy before.
I agree.
Because of guys like Fry and Severin and Coleman and Henderson and Linland and myself that all came directly from that wrestling world.
Yeah, I used to watch Kenny Monday too.
Kenny was amazing. He was one of my mentors.
Oh, was he?
Oklahoma State, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely one of my mentors.
That's cool. You've gotten to train with the guys that I watched.
88, he won the gold medal. And then a year later, he's my assistant, the assistant coach at Oklahoma State, one of the grad assistants. And I'm wrestling with this guy on the mat. And that was the selling point for me. That year in 88, I took my recruiting visit to a couple of colleges, and Okie State was one of them. And they were all training for the 88 Olympics. The trials were still happening. And I saw Mike Sheets and Kenny Monday in the wrestling room. Now, obviously, I was just there watching, as a program I want to be involved in. And Mike Sheets was in on a single leg. And they ended up going off the mat, over the barrier, into the shower, splashing around in the trough that holds the water in the shower because neither one of them would concede that takedown. And I'm like, I'm in the right place.
Yes. How do you explain to the normal people, like, that's what I want?
Yeah, right. Our idea of fun.
Like, that's okay. I'm in the right place. They didn't follow any of the rules and they broke everything along the way.
Kick my ass first.
So, then that takes me back to like, okay, how much of that was from where we started, where you're with a single mom, you're the oldest. For me, it was one, like I said, it wasn't just get my attention from my dad. Obviously I wanted that, but also I wanted to save him, get him off the drug with my thing, to be the father for my dad. Right.
That layer of the onion.
So
holy cow.
It really wasn't like it ended up working out. Right. So I'm not saying it is a sad story, really. It always works out for you in the end, but what was yours? Like, because that drove me to want something more from my mom, from my brother, from my family. If it was like, if it's going to happen, it's going to be me. Because otherwise we'd already be out, right? We'd already be in a better scenario.
Yeah, I think as the oldest and only male, I was the one that was given the chore list and given these responsibilities. My mom was working, sometimes 2 jobs to make sure we had food and clothes. And, so that left a lot of responsibility on me as the oldest in the family to negotiate all that stuff and get all that stuff done, because there was still going to be hell to pay if mom showed up and the chores weren't finished. So I think that responsibility was good for me. It kept me out of trouble, and it taught me things that I wouldn't have otherwise learned. So I had to embrace that. But I think at some point I had to let go of the animosity towards my dad.
Yeah. Did it take you?
Took me till I was in my 30s. To really kind of address that. Well, I had my second divorce, and
that's what did it, huh?
When you fail like that, and that was a failure in my mind, you start digging in. At least that's how I was. I turned in and started wading through my own swamp and trying to sort out why I'd made some of the decisions. And that's an ongoing process. That's still going on to this day. At 62, I'm still sorting a lot of that out and trying to figure a lot of that out. But initially I knew I didn't want to be like him. I wanted to be part of that kid's life. That led me to the Army, and I did everything backwards, but everything somehow seemed to work out. I found my way.
And you're still there for the kid, your son,
grandkids now.
Now grandkids,
so 3 grandkids.
It worked out perfect.
Ryan's got 2 boys, and my daughter's got a little girl.
Oh man,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it all worked out perfect.
Yeah.
And how did you juggle all that early on? 18. I mean, it's that just hearing it sounds shocking. And then now you have no money. Now you're in the military, you're winning, but then like you still have the kid back home. You still have the family. Yeah. How do you balance the?
You just do. I don't know how. I mean, you, like you said, juggling, you're wearing a lot of hats, you're juggling a lot, and you just manage to get through. And certainly chasing those dreams, trying to make that Olympic team, and then eventually trying to be a world champion and the best in my weight class in fighting. Who made those sacrifices? Certainly I had to make sacrifices to get to those things and accomplish those things. But my family, my wives and my kids were the ones that sacrificed time with me to be able to go do the things I needed to do to try and be successful with those things. That's time I'll never get back.
Anybody who knows me knows I don't waste time, and that mentality stuck with me from fighting. I don't have any time to waste. I should be training and doing my job. Same thing when I'm smoking the trees. Anything cookies, stizzy, packwoods, cake, runts. There's no guesswork. When you get this app, Everything 420 has everything you need. And when you go for the name brands, you don't have to worry about the quality of it. And that's what makes Everything 420 special, is it's not just regular weed that they have on their own. They also have the name brand stuff. So you don't got to guess on the quality, and everything follows through. Everything's quick. Everything's fast. Also, if you want consistency, convenience, and quality without the runaround, Everything 420 delivers.
If you value standards, convenience, and reliability, Everything 420 is the move. Use code DOM for an extra 15% off and download the Everything 420 app.
So guys, I've got a dog and he's my best friend. And you know, anybody who doesn't like dogs, it's probably a you problem, because dog is just God spelled backwards. So focus on your spirit, people. Rough Greens will help that survival of your dog, and it is the key to everything health for your dog. We're talking about digestive enzymes, omega oils, probiotics, minerals. These are the things that your body needs so that they don't get stiff, so they don't get sore, so that their hair doesn't get all dry and wiry, and they just stay healthy. Keep your dog healthy. They are a family member. Rough Greens, when I started feeding it to Dojo, everything got better for his movement, his joints, his breath got better. So I highly recommend it. Rough Greens isn't really a dog food. It's a live nutritional supplement you add to your dog's food. So you don't have to change your dog's food. You don't have to do anything like that to improve his health. You just need to add 1 scoop of Rough Greens, and it's easy. The food will be better. It'll have more nutrition, and you didn't change your dog's diet. Win-win. Additional dog food has a shelf life stable for years because it's lifeless. But when you get Rough Greens, it brings nutrition back. It's packed with vitamins, minerals, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and omega oils. So everything you need for your dog. Don't change your dog's food, just add Rough Greens to it. Rough Greens is offering a free Jumpstart trial bag. You just cover shipping. Use discount code DOM to claim your free Jumpstart trial bag at roughgreens.com. That's RUFF greens.com, promo code DOM. So do not change your dog's food. Just add Rough Greens and watch the health benefits come alive. It's so interesting to hear you say that, because that's on the other end. I look at you and you created the relationships and you still built it. Might not have been perfect in your eyes the way you wanted it, or maybe even the way they wanted it perfect. But like, I'm a person who didn't want to risk losing those opportunities that you're talking about. You'll never get back, right? My mindset while I was competing for my championships was, I want to never look back and think I could have, but I diverted my mindset or my energy to something else. So for me, women were kind of my Achilles heel. Like, they would I couldn't focus. Like, I couldn't stay, excuse me. It was like, if I'm thinking about this girl and I'm not thinking about the fight, there's somebody who's only thinking about the fight and not thinking about the girl. So I need to get my head together, is how I was kind of wired. And I was like, if I'm going to get the family out of this situation, I'm going to have to really focus, because I'm looking at guys like you and saying, look at the level there's Olympians fighting people. Like, I'm not an Olympic level wrestler. I'm going to have to give up everything and just completely focus to be this level of athlete like these guys are at that I'm watching, right? And so I'm thinking, like, how much did you have to give up to bear down the way you did? Because for me, I just gave that all up, right? You went for it, and it makes me think, like, there's no right way to do this. Obviously, you're saying I lost some time with my family, but you have the family, right? I didn't choose to do it. So it's not, I can go create it, and I plan to, right? I'm not saying I can't. I'm just saying there's no right way. How do you balance
thankfully,
it?
I had, certainly my second wife and my third wife were on board and supported those dreams and chasing those dreams. My kids, they liked it. And at the end of the day, they still sacrificed time with me when I was away in camps and, grouchy because I'm starving. That was all things that they had to endure. But again, they, spent a lot of time in gymnasium watching me compete. But Ryan was a very good wrestler through junior high and high school. And that was after our divorce. So, I wanted to make sure he wasn't stepping on that mat for the reasons I stepped on that mat, which were the wrong reasons. I still found my way, and it turned out to be the great place for me and the right place for me. But I was hoping that he wasn't trying to get my attention by walking out on that wrestling mat.
Yep.
Because, it's a tough way to do that, to go about that. And then later he decided he wanted to fight too. And I'm like, man, this is a tough way to make a living, getting punched in the face for your money. But I also saw the passion in him for both sports, for wrestling and for fighting. And as both a coach or a father, what else do you want to see?
Yeah.
Is that passion for what they're doing. So, I think in one hand, I probably rubbed off on him a little bit, and that was his entry into the sport. He was a good wrestler. He could have went to college and wrestled if he wanted to. He chose just to go to school. But no regrets. We've talked about all this stuff, with them, and I think they know how I feel. And, I recognize that I missed time with them to chase these things. And this came up recently because last year I was getting into drag racing, and, here's a whole nother thing. And it's a very rigorous schedule, a lot of training and all this stuff. And I've got 3 grandkids now, let alone my 3 children. And then in the training process, I crashed the car and got burned. And,
yes,
it's the first time they stepped. It's like, come on, Dad, what the hell are you doing? And they were right. Do I need a new hobby? It wasn't about money. So
what were you doing? What was it?
I've always been a hot rod guy and into cars. Again,
I drive fast too.
Connected me with my dad was he was one of those do-it-yourself guys. Built his own trucks and worked on all his own stuff. And again, another way I could maybe get closer to him and connect with him. So I was always into cars and welding and hot rods. Those were things he did, as well as hunting. I'm an avid outdoorsman to this day because of that foundation. So, it's just how it works out.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot. And I think, it's just interesting to hear like all the different things you went through because you chose to just do it. You know what I mean? And like, I'm thinking about all the things that, there's no right way to do any of this. It's so crazy because Eckhart Tolle said you'll learn more from 3 failed relationships than you'll learn from being on an island on your own.
I like Eckhart as well.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
And so how much did you learn going through all this? Because I didn't choose to take that route because I didn't want to be separate from, my thought was I want to just lock into the family when I lock in. And I know if the rest
of it's going away and you're going to focus on that,
I know
which is probably the right way to do it.
But there is no right way. This is my point.
I had to do it.
Yeah, there's no right way.
And so you make it work. Yeah, there's no such thing as perfect.
But how much did you learn though?
Perfection's a hustle, and it hampers, keeps you out of the arena where excellence takes place. If you're looking for perfection, you're going to be sorely disappointed because there's no such thing as perfection.
It's just nice because you get to you're a proof of you can have it all work together. It might not be pretty, but it's gonna you made it all work together. You did. You did all the different facets.
We've had our ups and downs. We've had our issues. We've managed to navigate through all of them. We're still close and happy and do well. I can't imagine being in the situation you were in. We're literally trying to save a parent from themselves. That's horrible.
It taught me a lot. Again, like I'm hearing all the things you learned from the ups and downs of 3 marriages. I might trade you, man.
I hope, and I feel like the generational curse has been broken with Ryan, with my oldest, and my mom and dad were divorced. His mom and dad were divorced. I mean, go back, I don't know how many generations, but it feels like there's been this generational trauma that's just been passed down and passed down and passed down. And I get to stand up and be the one that breaks that generational situation.
Right there.
And that makes me very, very proud and happy. I love the man that Ryan is. He's a better man than I'll ever be. And he's just amazing. And the boys are doing great. I love his wife. I mean, and my daughter's married and has my granddaughter now, Abby. And again, I feel like in those two, hopefully, Amy's already been through a divorce, unfortunately. Ryan has not. And so I'm hoping that curse has been broken.
I hear you. And that was also my reason for not doing it is I felt like I needed to rebuild myself because I didn't think my dad probably gave me the best tools to do this stuff.
And I wanted examples, didn't we?
I wanted to break I didn't want to get married and get divorced and get married and I didn't want to be that way. And so I just didn't. And I didn't fail, but I also didn't get to do right. It's just interesting to hear your perspective because you're kind of getting on yourself about those things a little bit, but it's like, you can go either way and there's no right way to do this thing. And I keep hearing that. And so it's interesting. And I think the most cool thing is that you're doing it while you're competing and you're fighting, the best of the best in the sport, building the sport at the same time. You're the first champion to do it in 2 weight classes, right? You're the first one to do that. And what at that peak, when you're at the top of the world like that, how old were you when you did that?
I went down to light heavyweight in 2003. Before the Ultimate Fighter, before the first season of the Ultimate Fighter.
That's when I graduated.
I had my second loss in the heavyweight division. I had one more fight on my contract. I think they were licking their chops and thinking, man, this guy's going to lose again and we're going to get rid of him finally. And I was scheduled to fight Arlovsky in the heavyweight division.
Yep. Still around.
3 weeks before the fight, Andre breaks his hand. And they call me up. They're like, man, 3 weeks, Andre broke his hand. We can't find a replacement in that amount of time. What about you coming down to light heavyweight and fighting Chuck at 205 for the interim title? Because Tito and Chuck can't seem to get their shit together and make this fight happen. Tito doesn't want to fight him and he wants his shot. We're going to strip Tito. Will you fight Chuck for the interim title at 205? And I'm like, heck yeah, I'll do that. I just had 2 losses. I lost to Josh Barnett and Rico Rodriguez.
And then you're going to fight him on short notice.
Arlovsky, not on short notice.
Oh, yeah.
I was scheduled to fight Arlovsky, and Arlovsky got hurt.
Got it.
That turned out to be the night my son was born. Had I been fighting Arlovsky in Florida, I would have missed my son's birth.
Wow.
Caden, my youngest. That relationship was already struggling. So that probably would have been the coup de grace. And the coup de grace came a couple years later anyway. But I would have missed that, which is a pretty big milestone to miss.
I don't know how you did it.
I ended up taking the fight with Chuck a month and a half later. And so I was there for my son's birth, and now I'm coming down in a weight class, which it was a small light heavyweight. I walked around at 220, 222. It wasn't that big. I had to work to keep my weight up because in the normal camp, a 10-week camp, I was coming right down to 212, 213, 214, which is easy to make 205 from there. So when they gave me the offer, I said, heck yeah, I'll do that. And that put me, where I thought I was going to be cut and out and maybe retiring from the sport. I beat Chuck in the interim title, and they want me to immediately fight Tito and reunite the light heavyweight title because he was still officially the title holder. And I was the interim champ now. And I said, okay. And now my career took off, went right through the roof, rolled right into 05 and the Ultimate Fighter as one of the coaches with Chuck in that first season. And that was the automatic rematch with Chuck. In order to take the coaching position, the coaches had to fight at the end of the show, I was fine with that too. That was, obviously the second and third fight didn't go. I was in the middle of the divorce with Trish.
There it is.
I didn't cut an ounce. I walked in at 203 because I was under so much stress. And, Chuck changed his style after I beat him the first time. He got on his bike and he made it a lot harder to get a beat on him. And, he didn't just stand out there and like, come on, I'm going to knock you out. He completely changed his style after losing that first fight to me. And that served him well because he ruled the weight class for probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, you helped him adjust.
He had to adjust.
Yeah.
I had to make friends with the pasta. This was the second fight. I know by the shorts. I wore red ones in the first fight.
This, man, is so crazy because I'm like, these are the fights I grew up watching.
Hook, man. But so, look, he's understanding. He's making me chase him.
Yeah. Which is rare, actually. Usually he pushes wrestlers back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was moving back.
He would stand out there. Everybody respected his striking so much that they rarely, they were scared to come in. And
yeah, but he's pulling you, which is usually he doesn't do that. So it's rare that you could back him up. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy watching because I just remember being so nervous watching this. And now I'm watching this with you. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And to explain really, because this is what I try to talk about. This show is Love and War for a reason. It's because how do we mix them, right? Like to me, it's oil and water. And you just explained something really serious, which was before the third fight you said with Chuck, or the second one?
Second and third.
You're going through a divorce during the fight.
Yep.
And I know it's not an excuse. Nobody's saying that.
The third, because I just didn't feel like myself. I was just felt so, again, so drained of energy, and just didn't feel like I was getting it done in the training environment. Nobody's going to beat up on us like we beat up on ourselves at the end of the day. And I was just in a really bad place and felt like I needed to step away. And I stepped away for 13 months. From fighting, from competing. I literally retired after the third Chuck fight.
Would you say it was more because of the loss or because of the relationships during the loss?
I'd lost before. It wasn't about the loss. It just, like I said, I just did not feel like myself. I just was bogged down in all this stuff. This divorce had drug on for so long. There was so much stuff going on that I just didn't feel like myself and needed a break. And started commentating, retired, and started commentating for the UFC then for a while. And then, the heavyweight division was the Tim Sylvia, Andrei Arlovsky show for 3 years there. And they knew each other so well and fought each other back and forth so well. And then I was still commentating about a year later, and Tim Sylvia and Jeff Munson happened up in Sacramento.
Yes.
And I was commentating that fight, and it was like watching paint dry. Neither guy would engage. And I'm like, well, it was crazy to watch. And about a week later, I'm having dinner with a buddy, and he had been poking me for months and months. You need to fight the giant. You need to fight the giant, trying to get me to fight Tim Sylvia. I'm like, dude, I'm retired. I'm not fighting anybody. And that night, it was his birthday. We went to sushi, having some sake. He's like, you need to fight the giant. And I'm like, on my phone with Dana, that was a boring fight. I could beat either one of those guys, talking about Tim and Jeff.
He is a giant, by the way.
And he is a massive guy. And he's a good friend. Giant. I like Tim. Tim's a great, Tim had stayed in my house and trained with me up at Team Quest before he fought Rico and won the title. So I knew Tim well. And I liked him. Contrary to when the red light comes on and Tim kind of doesn't do himself a lot of favors in how he endears himself to the fans. Sometimes he come across brash, and he wasn't, I knew Tim at a real level. I mean, he literally stayed in my house for those couple weeks. He trained with us, and I was going through a remodel. He was up every day helping me remodel and help me tear stuff up. And then we go to the gym and get on the mats. So, it was interesting, but that fight, we looked like Mutt and Jeff out there. Him 6'8" and me 6'1".
I mean, but if you think about it, he was your friend, and then you came back and steal his dreams from him. How do people explain that that's how competitive we can be, and you're not a bad guy for that?
Some of my best friends for the spot on the team, right? Somebody's going home pissed off.
I try to say that to people, like, I'd rather fight my best friend and we both come out on top than not. Yeah. And then I'm fighting somebody that maybe I don't like.
We're professionals. This is what we do.
That's what I try to say. And there's a lot of fighters that say, no, he's my best friend. And I'm like,
but that's a wrestler's mentality. I literally had to wrestle my best friends for the spot on the team. One of us was going home upset that they lost that match.
That's simple.
But we're still friends.
Right? I agree. So I just love that because I don't think enough people have that mentality. I don't know if it's these days or in general. It's like, I will beat the shit out of you for whether you're my friend or not, because we're competing. We both signed up.
Yeah.
We signed up. If you didn't sign up, I'm not just going to beat you up. Come on. But I always looked at it like, when I first started, I remember getting hit or wrestling was my first time, like really feeling like, wow, like the guy grabbed me. It was my first day and he grabbed me by the back of the neck and he just started doing this one and then slammed my face in the mat and literally went on to beat the shit out of me on the mats for the very first 3 minutes of my life, first time wrestling. And I remember getting up and like leaving that practice that day completely beat to death, bloody nose, black eyes. They were not nice to me at all. They like were happy that I was fresh meat to beat up, right? And I come out of there and they're like, yeah, you actually did pretty good. And I remember taking that like, damn, that was good. Like that, wow. I was like, I had my head up, but then at the same time, I loved the feeling that they gave me permission Now I could do that back to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I loved about wrestling. And then what I ended up loving more about fighting was, oh, now I get to take it to the next level. Now you're giving me permission to knock you out, put you unconscious, make you bleed, hurt you, actually make you feel pain. And we're making that barter that it's allowed.
Yeah.
Like you can do it to me and I'm going to do it to you and I'm okay with that. And so whether you're my friend or not, it's like we're both signing up. So for me, it kind of puts the friend or not off the table, right? Now we're even.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just refreshing to hear you say like, oh yeah, he's my friend, but you know what? I'm going to take his title from him because you were that competitive.
That's what we do.
And how did it, you and him are still friends?
Yes, still friends. I do a charity ride up in Quad Cities where he's from, up in Illinois, Iowa. Mm-hmm. He's in Bettendorf. There's 3 or 4 cities right there. We do a charity ride up there every year, and he comes out every year, rides with us. We do some guest bartending. He doesn't even drink, but he'll come guest bartend with me and do all this stuff and to promote the Foundation for Wounded Combat Veterans. So Tim's a great guy. I love Tim.
So guys, the Factor meals are key and they're clutch if you're especially on the move and trying to be healthy, which is my life. I'm always traveling. I'm on the road trying to get from workout to workout. And if I'm not exercising, then I'm trying to get to LA to film podcasts. If I'm not there, then I'm trying to do the desk work. I have places in Arizona too. I mean, I'm just all over the place. So the Factor meals help me so much because it's quick to get the food ready. It's fast. It doesn't get all dry and nasty when you heat it up. It's got all the ingredients that you need. And I had the Tex-Mex chicken bowl after a workout last week, and it was genuinely one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I think that's because I was starving, but also because you don't feel like crap after you're done eating it. So when you're done eating this, you're just smooth, you're clear, the mission is accomplished, and you can go on to do the next things you got to do without feeling sluggish and gross at the end of the meal. So factor in your Factor meals if you want to get your health right. Head to factormeals.com/Dom50off and use code Dom50off to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. So he ended up making you be that whole thing ended up letting you be the first champion ever to win it 3 times, right?
I think, yes.
You're the first one to do that.
Heavyweight champion 3 times.
I think you're the first champion in general to do that. I've won the title twice, but I think you and GSP, I don't know 100% on the stats of that, but I think you were the first one to win the title 3 times. Like you won it, lost it, won it, lost it, and then won it again.
Yeah. Well,
that's crazy.
Yeah. That definitely happens. I don't know about the stats of where it falls.
Yeah, me neither. But that's 3 times you did it. And you had a 6-year layoff in between the second and third title?
Because I was fighting at light heavyweight.
Right. But still.
So I started in heavyweight because there was no lightweight or any other weight. There was only heavyweights.
Yes, you're right. That's right.
UFC 13 was the first show they had a lightweight division, which was anything under 200 pounds. And that's where Tito showed up first.
Yeah.
He fought Shamrock. Actually, he fought Guy Metzger, and Ken Shamrock was cornering Guy, and Tito was beating the brakes off Guy, had cut him, took him down, and had him on the ground and was beating him up pretty bad. And because of the cut, they stopped the fight to check the cut. Now, back then, they didn't put you back down in the same position that you were in. They re-engage from the standing position. Tito takes a bad shot, ends up on his knees and gets caught in a guillotine. So now he went from beating the brakes off a guy to happen to tap. And he was pissed. So what does he do? He stands up and double birds Ken, who was Guy's corner man. And that started that whole thing with him and Tito and Ken that carried on for years and 3 fights, 2 or 3 fights.
Started the storyline.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Was UFC 13.
Who was the fight that you'd say in the whole group of you guys that you're like, I mean, I remember just picturing Crow Cop, how scary he was.
Man, I was set to fight the winner of him and Gonzaga.
Yeah, it's Gonzaga at the time. To
Gonzaga
both of them
booted
with
him
the
in
head kicks.
and folded him up like a cheap lawn chair. I was like, oh my God, now I got to fight that dude.
It was the same era.
Yeah.
So you're right. And you did fight that dude.
Yeah,
and you
I fought
did
him next.
amazing in that fight.
Yeah, it was.
Man,
that
you
was
wrestled
another
the
one I wasn't
shit out of
supposed to
him.
win.
I remember that we got to pull that one up. That's one of my biggest memories of being like, oh man, can he do it against this dude? Because Gonzaga was head kick, was folding people.
Yep.
And
was
you
wrecking
wrestled the
everybody.
shit out of him, dude.
A little more dirty boxing on him. And I ended up picking him up in a high single.
Yes.
And putting him on his back, and his own knee comes down and crushes his nose. I mean, he just
I remember that.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And then he come out the third round, the start of the third round, tried to kick me in the head. I got one arm up, didn't get them both up.
Oh, we got to put that throw up there.
And he broke my arm in that kick.
Yes. I heard about
I remember
clinch,
and I could feel it clicking and like, that ain't right. But
what minute, when did you hit this single leg? I want to show that single leg.
it's coming up there. I hit him with that left hook.
Yeah, that hook stuck him.
It's about.
He's dangerous, dude. He was so dangerous back here. Oh, I love the switch up to the punch to the take behind like that. Clean.
I think
that's the mixture. It's the mixture.
He scrambles up off the fence here. We end up on the fence, and I think the high single comes here pretty quickly.
That's what Cormier's been smashing people with. And this is like, man, this is the peak, I think, of the heavyweight division in the UFC was back in these fights.
Yeah, it was a lot deeper.
Yeah, Ngannou's nice, though. I miss Ngannou being involved.
I love Francis. He's a great guy. Interesting guy. Such a story. That's a Disney movie.
Right.
Somebody needs to tell that story.
I mean, you wrote 3 books, too, so it makes sense.
States and then becoming the number one guy in the heavyweight division.
I mean, he's made his money.
Yeah, he's done
with that story, with what he's doing. Yeah, it's been incredible. But again, like even here, like the way that you're the first one to really use Greco from my experience at the highest level. Like you're able to keep people on the fence. They didn't know what to do with this clinch. It's different now. It's hard to hold people on the fence the same way now. But with your level of Greco and everything back then.
Danny and Matt, we spent a lot of time together at Team Quest just figuring out ways to implement our wrestling. I think the high single comes right here. I'll switch from the double.
In on a double. Head on.
There's a high single coming right now. Yep.
Oh, clean. That was beautiful.
Crushed his nose.
Yeah, because his knee, you said his knee, boom, smashed. Did you see it when it happened?
Slow that down, and when he hits
you saw
Everybody
it when
thought it was our heads that collided after the fight, and then I went back and watched it. Like, I don't think it was our heads. And watched it in slow motion, and his knee comes down and just crushes his face.
That throw is beautiful. So, these are like different fights that it's cool to get to walk through them with you because these are the ones I'm watching, like freaking out. You put your bets on it, and here we are watching it together.
That's funny.
Who's the scariest fight though that you're like? We're looking back now. Let's say you're in the competition pool. You're like, you know what? I'd rather just steer away from that. And just,
I've only made that comment once.
Yeah, who was that fight for you?
They offered me John Jones.
Makes sense.
This was in the fall. He had just beaten somebody.
How old was he then?
He was really coming into his own.
Yeah.
He'd just taken somebody down, and I can't remember who it was, and just elbowed the tar out of him.
Hamel.
And they asked me, we want you to fight John Jones. I said, well, I don't think anybody wants to fight him right now. Give me somebody else. And then I ended up fighting. Oh, good Lord! You'd think I got punched in the face for a living. In Manchester, England, I fought Brandon Vera.
Oh yes,
instead of John.
Oh, that makes sense.
And
I remember.
It was a very close fight, very tough fight. A lot of people thought I lost that fight, but I went back and watched it, and I felt like I clearly won 2 of the 3 rounds. He didn't realize how bad he hurt me in the second round. He kicked me in the liver. And you see that card. There's a card out there. My body just bent over his shin. And he kicked me in the liver and put me on my back. And I don't think he realized how bad he'd hurt me. If he hadn't come down on top of me, I'm not sure I could have stood up.
Wow.
It was a bad one. He came down on top of me, and it allowed me to get through the round and recover. And then I turned it up in the third, and I beat him in the first and then beat him in the third. But he's another one that had a great wrestling pedigree. I knew him from Greco. We wrestled. When he was in the Air Force, I was in the Army. Wrestling. And I had wrestled him at the national tournament in Greco. So I knew him pretty well. And he's a great guy. I loved what he was doing in MMA. Fighting at heavyweight, his Muay Thai skills were on point, and he was tearing a lot of guys up. So I knew he was going to be a tough fight.
Brandon Vera came on the scene and took such a big case he had such a big aura so fast in the UFC, and he was he's been in my corner in fights. Brandon Vera is a big bro for me.
Yeah.
Like I've literally gotten to spar rounds with him, so I know how dangerous he is. We never kicked, by the way. It was just boxing when I would get to go around. No kicks, because his kicks.
That dude kicks like a mule.
I've never there's rarely people that kick like Brandon Vera.
Yeah.
It's a fact. I've watched it over and over. The fact that I remember watching you eat that kick and not knowing how you survived it, that finishes people, everybody.
Yeah.
So I would say he probably kicked you and might have known, but was so shocked that it didn't take you out, because that takes people out, that kick. That's that liver shot. I've watched him.
Dude,
that and leg kicks are where he just finished. He would smash people with them.
And thank God that was before the calf kick became the popular thing to do.
Yes, solid point. But yeah, I remember I was watching Brandon Vera train for this fight. Yeah. I was we were at Alliance Training Center. Yeah. I was winning titles during this time. He was at the top of his game. And
his defensive wrestling skills, and this is the first round. And I mean, I had no luck. I controlled where the fight happened, but I had no luck taking him down or putting him on the ground. And I really had to turn it up in the third, because I clearly lost the second. But I must have hit it pretty well, because he didn't realize how bad that liver kick hurt.
To me, that was probably what I always looked at, that you were the best at, is your poker face. Whether you're tired, whether you're hurt, you had this thing where you never really looked too affected.
Something we practiced in body language in the gym, in the training environment. Make those guys, stop putting your hands on your head, on your hands on your hips, and bending over, holding your knees, and because you're sending me a message. As your workout partner, you're sending me a message, and guess what? Message received. I'm taking it up 2 or 3 notches. Because again, what's my goal? To make you quit, to push you farther than you want to go and push you harder than you want to work. That's our goal every time we step in that cage. That was my goal every time I stepped out on that wrestling mat. So control your body language. Don't tell that guy your secret. Keep it a secret.
Facts. I can't stress that enough. I think that starts in wrestling, though, doesn't it? You learn that in wrestling. You run back to the center of the mat. You don't walk back.
How tired you are.
And my coach would be pissed if you're not running back to the center, because if you're walking, you can just see it in the energy.
Yep.
And that matters so much. Roman Bravo Young is an Olympic level wrestler that I get to cross train with right now. And I'm so grateful to get to, work with him, because when I watch, I'm like, aren't you tired? He's like, get up. He doesn't show it. And he's like, I'm as tired as you are. It's just, you can't show it.
But that's like anything else. You got to practice that. You got to control those body language. When you feel that way, you can't let that show.
Yeah, I agree. And this is, I think too, also do you think that where the light heavyweight, you commentated in PFL, you've commentated in Bellator, all these different organizations, so you have a different perspective, being as you got to commentate in these other shows too. Mm-hmm. Would you honestly say that the UFC probably in mixed martial arts still has the highest level of competition in the world for mixed martial arts, if you're really going to test yourself?
I think they, from a production standpoint, their production value, the stable of fighters they have, 650 fighters in their stable. So the level of competition, they dialed in the production value a long time ago, and they've never strayed from that. And they try to be cutting edge. I liked what the PFL was doing, certainly with adding some technology, the ref cam and the sensors in the gloves and in the feet, if they wore things on their feet, so we could measure punch and kick speed and some of that stuff that the PFL was doing as far as cutting edge creating there. But the UFC is the elephant in the room for sure.
I just think the competition level is more, there's so much, I know there's a lot of fighters, but that it's so hard to have that level of fighter and that many of them too, to compete with what they're doing right now, because to me, it's like the Olympics, but for fighting already. It's a world stage. I'm fighting people from Brazil, Ukraine,
definitely a global,
Dubai.
It's a global sport now. It's not just a Brazilian sport,
but that's
or
Olympics.
A Japanese sport or an American sport. It's a global sport now. It's the fastest growing competitive sport around besides women's wrestling in this country. And again, I think you're seeing fights all over the planet now, not just in those 3 marketplaces where the sport originally grew, which is interesting. It's become the combative sport for this generation.
Do you think you got to get to the UFC to prove you're the best fighter in the world right now? That's why I'm asking this. That's the honest truth. You do, don't you?
Obviously look what Kayla just did. And again, I think she's doing arguably the best female in the sport right now. And wanted to establish her legacy. She won it 2 times and was in the finals a 3rd time in the PFL. I wasn't surprised when she came over to the UFC, again, to establish that legacy and plant her flag. Yes, I'm the best in this weight class as a woman. And so, they gave her Holly. It was a shame that the Nunes fight didn't happen. I was excited to see that fight, but she needed to get her neck squared away, which we all have bad necks.
Who's your pick in that fight?
I think Kayla.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Nunes had been out a little while.
Yeah.
Now, Nunes cracks. I mean, she cracks. And I think they were crazy to put Ronda back in with Nunes. They did not know what they were looking at. WME is like, oh, she's going to win. I'm like, dude, do you even know what you're looking at? She just got kicked in the head by Holly Holm, and you put her in with this gal.
And now she's back
she's
too.
She's an absolute savage.
And now she's back.
Yeah.
Man, it's cool, right? You got Ronda back. She's fighting Carano.
Yeah, and the 16th of May in LA. I'm not sure who's actually promoting that event, but I saw the face-off the other day. I didn't realize Ronda's is that much shorter than Gina.
Another tough
Obviously,
fight.
I trained Gina for quite a while at the end of her MMA career when she fought Cyborg and a couple of her other fights before the Cyborg fight.
But the Amanda fight, she had such a layoff. You're a guy who laid off for 6 years and then came back and still was able to come back and win the title. Due to injury, I was laid off 3 years. I don't know how long Nunes has been out, but we're 2 guys. I know how hard it is to come back after that much time. You have to really I had to keep my life entrenched like I was still doing it. I couldn't act like I wasn't.
Fight shape is a whole different animal,
right?
Than just being. I'm in great shape, especially for a 62-year-old. But no illusions of fight shape right now.
I try to explain that to people too.
It's a whole different thing.
But I saw her at the PI, and she looks very strong. She doesn't not look in fight shape, Amanda, when I see her. But she just doesn't have the same size as Kayla. In general,
and
she's enormous. She's just big, and strong, and so that's why I like it, because I think
was a real question. Could she make 145, 135? Well, that's why we created a 155-pound weight class in the PFL to accommodate her. The first time I met her, she was walking around at 180, and I'm like, "Holy smokes, this gal's almost in my weight class
with abs."
Yes, trapped. I'm like, holy cow,
she's an animal.
Who is this gal?
She is. She's a beast. And then, so she had the strength, and I could see, all right, if she gets a hold of her, puts Amanda on the fence, it's probably a wrap. But there is that thing where I do believe Amanda has the speed advantage with the hands.
And the fight. She's not bad on the ground. She understands the grappling. I mean,
the fight starts on the feet.
Larissa Pacheco. Third time they finally fight, Larissa dialed it in and was able to meet her on the mat in every situation that Kayla put her in, and Pacheco managed to come out on top. So, and I think Nunes has some of those same abilities, but then there's those questions. Has sat out for a little while. What is there ring rust? How's she going to come back?
I don't believe ring rust is real. I'm going to say that, but I do know that you got to train your ass off so it doesn't exist. That's the thing. It can exist, but it doesn't have to if you're training right. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So definitely curious about that. I'd like to really just finish off with your movie career, your Hollywood career. Like, you've done Expendables, you did the whole layout. Yeah. What's that been like, crossing over from a world of fighting, then retiring? Yeah. Building all your relationships, right? Because you're done fighting, switching over career paths. It's not easy to do all the things you've done from being in the Army to then during your fight career, you're juggling 3 different relationships with kids. Then you get out and then you got a movie career. Now, how do you get off the feeling of fighting? Like, it's such a lifestyle for us. You get rid of that. Now you know all the everything. It's all a lot, man. You've lived like 10 different lives.
Yeah, I feel like that sometimes. I feel like a cat that's lived 7 of his 9. You know, maybe
a lot of wisdom
2 left. But the acting thing presented itself in the early 2000s. I got a call from the UFC. Hey, they're doing this underground cage fighting scene in this big movie with Jet Li and DMX. You know, do you want to? They want authentic cage fighters. Do you want to do this movie? And they called Chuck and Tito as well. So all 3 of us took roles, small roles.
Did you have to work together?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We were all
and it was
there.
all good.
Yeah. We had no issues. Most of us don't have any real issues.
I agree. But
we all get along. We're all trying to promote a sport.
Yeah.
What does Dana reward? Guys that'll talk smack and generate heat. That's what he likes. I mean, Tito was the first to do it.
Yeah.
Who was Tito's manager back then? Dana White.
Yep.
So that's not a surprise. That's what gets rewarded. So that's how guys are going to act. And Tito was the first to do it. You know, Baroni.
Yes.
Sonnen elevated it again. And then Conor McGregor comes on the scene and he takes it to a whole new level. So, I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's kind of indigenous to that promotion, because those are the guys that are getting the nod, the guys that'll do those sort of things, the publicity stunts, and why he didn't like a Fitch or a Lindland, or these guys are amazing competitors. So it wasn't the way they compete, maybe the way they fight, they weren't exciting enough, but they also kept to themselves. They didn't try to generate that kind of heat. And that's the kind of thing that Dana really likes. So. Well, I was never that guy either.
Yeah, but you won. So you kind of got to dodge that to an extent. But let's be honest, if you went back and you could look back and tell any up and coming fighter now with what you just said, man, like you have to, you can't tell them that it doesn't exist. You have to teach them that that's part of it too, right? Hey, being able to talk.
Part of it. At the end of the day, this is a business. They're trying to sell pay-per-views, trying to sell tickets and get butts and seats. I get that part of it for sure.
And how do you separate yourself with that being part of the game now, whether we want it to be part of the game or not, right?
Yeah. There's certainly a gray area now with the merger, takedown, and the WWE. We all know and have known for years that those weren't real, that was entertainment, sports entertainment. And now you're going to throw MMA and the UFC in the same basket?
The thing is, I think
raises a question in my mind.
I'll say this. I think you can get away with it just because no matter what, the fight is so real that even if the fake talk is there, the fight's not, so you can get away with it.
Yeah, well, that's
right. It's as real as day, the fight.
Because you can't not watch an MMA fight and not, that dude's really bleeding.
Yes.
There's no way to fake that.
So I kind of like that. Screw it. If you're going to fight anyways to the death, you might as well talk about it. Yeah, right. But I also get the respect.
I mean, I signed up to fight Tito Ortiz. I know what was going to happen the second I signed that contract.
Yeah.
The crap talking was coming.
Yeah.
And that was okay. I expected it. Yeah. I think he expected me to give it back to him a little bit, which caught him off guard because that wasn't really my style.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we still have to step in that cage and solve the issues, solve the problems. And that's what fighting is problem solving.
One of the things I wanted to ask you last was because you did so much stuff in the Army and, I have special operations friends and stuff like that. And I'm not saying it's the same, but there's like, when your identity can become a world champion, and especially a Olympic wrestler like you were, you had all these other things that you were able to mix in your relationships and stuff, but your identity kind of becomes that to an extent.
Yes, it does.
But first it can kind of become the military man that you were too.
This is why transition is such a challenge for a lot of these guys. And I walked away from that uniform too. And then you talked about me retiring and walking away from my sport. That was a huge piece of my identity at that time. I fought for 14 years. I was a fighter. I mean, that was who in many ways, it's not just something I did. I lived that life for 14 years, and walking away from that is a huge piece of your identity and who you become. Same thing with our military guys and our special operations guys. I get the chance since leaving the uniform to work with a ton of those guys after I became a public person, and the mindset, the warrior spirit, we share that.
That's why I'm asking you.
They're analyzing and breaking down and studying and being students of their game too. And their lives are on the line in those situations. It's a whole different thing. But it's a thinking man's game, and fighting, everybody thinks this is blind rage and we just go beat the hell out of each other. No,
not at all.
This is the thinking man's game. You study this, you live this, you breathe it.
Facts.
And those guys have that same attitude about what they do too. I've gotten to rub elbows with a lot of those guys, and they're amazing.
I agree.
What they do is amazing.
I do as much as I can for the military.
Obviously now, trying to portray those guys as an actor is a real challenge.
But you were, though.
Just like fighting. How do you make that look real on film and make it look right? When I can see the real thing every Saturday now in a real cage, how do we capture that on film and make it look right and make it look that gritty, visceral thing that we know it is? And it's the same thing, same challenge with a war movie or, Terminal List or any of these films that are coming out, making those look real and making them look right. Any of those guys that actually operate will be calling out the BS right away. I'm that way. Oh, he didn't even do a tactical reload. What was he thinking? That ain't real.
Yep. That leads me to my last question is, you've lived a million lives. You're wise beyond belief, clearly, being a father, being a fighter, being a military vet, being just all the different walks of life. From your experience, which would you say is the tougher thing to live in, love or war? Which is more difficult to deal with? The war and love, the love itself, which, you know what I'm saying? Like,
wow, that's a great question. And obviously for me, it's been love. It's been way harder.
I agree.
My personal relationships, being authentic, honest, open, setting boundaries. These are things nobody does when they're entering into a relationship or going to get married. They never talk about it, establish a lot of these ground rules basically and get on the same page from the jump. And then they wonder why things fall apart down the road, because you never really set up a good foundation for that relationship where, as a wrestler and a fighter, we learn the work we put into this is exactly what we're going to get out of it on the back end. And we go with these amazing feelings of joy and stuff, but we never really set up the foundation that house is going to sit on once it gets down to the nuts and bolts of being in a relationship. That's the issue I see. Everybody experiences that honeymoon period where there's only a couple things you really want to do all the time. And then something real happens. You get married or you have a child, and now the real nuts and bolts of being in love and being in a relationship come to play. And if you haven't set up those boundaries and that foundation for that, then all of a sudden you're going to hear, well, you've changed. You're not the same person I fell in love with. Like, what are you talking about? Yes, I am. And this is where you end up. And then the next thing you know, you're out the door. It's over.
I love hearing.
Way, way bigger challenge for me than I'd rather be punched in the face, frankly.
I try to explain this to everybody, man. To me, war almost comes, I don't have to try. Mm-hmm. It's natural. You want to get me to be intimate not in a creepy romantic way, just intimate in general, get to know each other, look at each other, actually have conversation. And really, who am I? Who are you? Into me, you see. That's intimacy, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just romantic. It's every relationship. And to me, love has definitely been way harder than war in my life to balance and be with. And I just love the dichotomy of the two. Yeah. And being as wise as you are, it doesn't surprise me that you would say love is more difficult than war for a guy like you. And that's coming from a guy who's felt some of the toughest war zones on earth, no?
I have gotten to go to a lot of places and see a lot of things. And that's something, that's a challenge here in this country, because I don't think a lot of folks have ever left their home state, let alone seen real oppression, real poverty in the world, and understand what that really looks like. And most of us here in this country have never seen it. Yet we're bitching and complaining about our lattes and this stupid crap. Again, everybody's here and nobody's here.
Yep. And that's why
experiencing each other at a soul to soul level as real people. I don't give a crap where you come from, what color your skin is, what religion you are. None of that matters. We are all souls in these meat bodies experiencing the human condition right here. And that's how we need to start looking at people. Stop looking at all the differences and start looking at all the things that we have in common.
Couldn't agree more. Well said. Thanks for your time, Randy.
Pleasure, man.
You're the man. Thank you.
Thank you.